Recently, I noticed horrible clunking noise from front suspension. Patrick's garage. So let's jack front part and look under. And of course, as can you guess, we don't want to be squashed. We also fixing rear end, so it's not slides. Otherwise, it would be dumbest idea to jacking car without fixing the rear end. I use phasing jacking and then adding pieces of wood under the front wheel. So let's look to our upper arm and let's look where our bolts that was loosened. Why they was loosened, I don't know. Maybe from vibration or maybe not proper tightening. So far was so good. We don't want being squashed. And these two bolts, which are we interested, under their arm. Now access enough after we eject their front end. And which socket we need? We try this, maybe this. We stockpile the sockets for that work, maybe this. Yes, this. We need now which sizes of socket we need for our old venerable suspension. We use flexible shaft for tightening this bolt. Maybe we can use old plain shaft, longer, since I driving old car. I use my ginormous trunk as a warehouse for tools. And in a lot of times I was figured that I was right. When you're driving around on old cars, sometimes we repair them. And of course we need tentative amount of sockets in the trunk. So my walking space onto the car. And you see sockets which I tried. We can see the heads of bolts, and of course I can't remember which size of them. But here is one trick you can do. We can try touch them and we can try to guess which size of bolts here. These bolts for us invisible. Adjusting plates for angle of wheel in its place is good. We just striving to make our suspension in working condition. We don't want that front wheels fall apart. Now all parts in its place and our suspension still in pristine shape. You see good access for our bolts. This socket fits good, and we just need to tighten our bolts. Easiest way if we don't want to take out our wheels. We don't want to spend our time to remove and fixing them again. And side member not so good fix to the body. Here you see. So now let's tightening our bolts. So, always take a notice. You hear horrible noises coming from the front suspension that you didn't hear before. That also can be means that the wheels bearings have been damaged. Maybe you hit the curbs. Take a notice for this. We're not gonna recuperate it completely. And maybe I need to admit that I replaced upper arms couple years ago. I found them from junkyard. Rubber bushings was worn and the upper joint was worn. And more than this, all the upper joint was fixed with welding. So was hard to replace upper ball joint. And I decided to replace upper arm as a complete unit. So you see a socket which I used. This socket feels good. By the way, front tires can get detrimental effects from not adjusted front suspension or worn front suspension. This rust doesn't matter now. These just covered lower part. We don't care about that. But if we absolute fanatics, we can repair it with welding. But it's not neat. Yes, you can welding it if you are aiming to achieve perfect condition, so it don't rust. But by the way, not so bad condition for 50 years old. You see frame so far so good. Rocker panels was replaced. Oil from transmission dripping. But even not dripping seepage a little. Anyway, it's an old car, so it's got a rust. So now what about frame and body? It's nothing to worry about. Arm rubber bushings were all bashed in. Oil leaks seepage from steering box. And little oil seepage from fuel pump. But from steering box too much. So when front suspension worn, tire pattern suffer a lot. Good opportunity to look under, since we carried out a little with front suspension. Will be better to clean it all and then coat so it won't rot in the future. So today we learned, so you not need to have a special tool to adjust upper arm. It's awful. Because adjusting front wheels boring process a little. Since it rides fine, but little directs to side. Inappropriate, of course. And tires should be evenly worn. Should be the same wear all way across. If it's all cuffed on one side or the other, that could mean that your suspension was damaged, or maybe even frame, or maybe wheels not adjusted correctly, or bolts little loosened, or as in this case. Now good opportunity to look under to the rear side. We see muffler rubber band was mislaid. Crappy quality. This rubber bands was total piece of junk. So muffler little noisy in connection. Exhaust gases little leaks. Here. Maybe you don't care about noise. And don't worry, turn the radio up. But fasteners anyway should be replaced. We don't want rid of muffler. So I noticed cracks on the windshield. Why? Maybe after I jacking the front part. Why it cracks? This window just glued to the body. In olden days, for fixing windshield, used the rubber seal. It worked correctly. Was no leaks, was no rusty frame. Here also windshield was damaged here, but I bought the car with this. There was screw inside, cause the window cracks. They do crappy work anyway. Look at the rear view mirror, you never know what these bonkers are up to. clutch pedal little noisy. To say, turned out quite normal. If you draw this thing every day, will be better to have a lot of spare time to take care of it. Or at least be glad of hundreds in your pocket. Thank you so much for your time, and now, if you haven't subscribed to that channel yet, please do click the subscribe button and notifications bell, so that way you can be notified as soon as I upload new videos about car repairing.